Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey/X/. Have you ever met someone who basically gave you a really bad feeling? Like, this person might be a serial killer, or this person is definitely not human. I'm sure you guys met some really creepy people out there, and I want to hear those stories.
I was at the hospital getting some injections and I passed this guy. He had this scraggly beard with rubber bands in it, a too big t-shirt and some kind of cargo pants with flip-flops, broken bent glasses. I live in the messed up part of Ohio, so tweakers and other nasty people aren't that strange to see. Didn't think anything of it. He walked past me, headed west, didn't bat an eyelash. I went to Walmart to pick up some groceries. Once again, same guy. He was leaving as I was entering. Okay, small town, coincidence. He's headed west again, but whatever. I get inside and then this guy runs past me, west, same guy. Not even 30 seconds after I'd seen him walking, assumedly to his car, away from the last entrance to the building. Then this dude once again passes me, heading west as I'm checking out. By the time I see him the fourth time, I'm ready to puke. He's not particularly scary or big or anything. He just unsettled me. Made me feel like he was singling me out. I've never been so scared in my life.
There was this time I went to a pizza place with my dad and his ex. I was really young, like early elementary school age. I left the table to use the bathroom, pissed in a urinal, and as I was about to leave the bathroom, the door flew open and knocked one of my sandals off. There was this scraggly-looking dude just standing there and staring me right in the eye, going, "Oh," in this weird, high-pitched tone. He didn't break eye contact or stop making that noise until I left the bathroom. Could have just been some tweaker. IDK, South Florida is weird.
I've got two. Both of them are fairly shitty, but I'll contribute anyways. I'm fairly good at judging people's physical abilities from playing a lot of sports from a young age. I can usually tell if someone can beat the crap out of me instinctively, even if they make you think, do you even lift? I usually tend to be able to socialize fine with the borderline autistic, weird kids, even though they are not my primary peer group. The first happened when I was about 8. Quite sick, 39-degree fever. Waiting in the hospital lobby. Fairly short, probably about 150 to 160 centimeters tall. Man is looking around constantly. Looks a bit crazy, as he looks really dirty. Pretty mismatched clothes as well. Parents are talking to the doctor, then the guy makes eye contact with me. Most definitive example of crazy eyes I've ever seen. Smiles at me with really yellow, rotten teeth. Tilts head and stares at me for 5 or so seconds. Being a kid, I retain eye contact. Starts walking toward me. Gait is really unsteady. Stereotypical zombie-type gait. Being 8 and sick, I decided, if I can't see him, he can't see me. Walk out of doors slowly. He kinda growls as I start to get out of sight range and starts to move quicker. Wait 30 seconds. Walk back in. He's just staring at some spot on the wall, probably some meth head. Second one, coming back from a game of soccer. Decide to get coke with Dad. About 7 wannabe gangster types. One of them was an Asian manlet with tattoos and 9 out of 10 girlfriend. One other guy was waiting in line. All of these guys seemed pretty scared of him. Looked like he worked in IT or something, but he didn't have any wasted movements when he walked. Most emotionless eyes that I've ever seen. He starts talking to the leader of the Asians. Absolutely no movement of his body or head except for his mouth when he was talking. Had the feeling that there was either something wrong with him or he had some sort of extensive training. Sorry, I only have shit to share.
Used to be really close to this one guy. We were best friends for years. Started drifting after high school, but still kept in touch anyway. Our friendship started with us more or less being rivals. We fought a lot, violently, hated each other. I think that's what made us bond, and that's what made him respect me. Anyway, our friendship was strong and lasted a long time. Nowadays, though, I see him differently. I start recalling that he has never seemed to fear anything. He has always been charming and gotten what he wanted, always excelled at whatever he put his mind to. He has hurt people liberally, frequently, at one point even punching a girl to the floor after she chose another guy to have a one-night stand with at a party. He works out a lot, enjoys his physical prowess tremendously, and the power it brings. He is very good at dominating a room with his presence. I don't know what he's doing now. I haven't spoken for a while, but with this distance I have gained and the perspective that comes with it, I have come to realize that this is not a good person. I always felt slightly uneasy around him at times due to his unpredictability and occasional habit of lying, but I never got a distinctly bad vibe. Nowadays I do, when I see him. Is my former best friend a sociopath, and when will he kill someone?
I don't think people who are generally considered antisocial weird or scary. I do tend to feel from a very young age whether a person generally has good or bad intentions. Nowadays, I call it out to the people close to me when I think someone has a real evil streak, sadistic, mean, heartless. Similarly, when I think people are generally really good people. I don't remember ever being declared wrong. Interesting side note. There are way too many people who have cruel or sadistic intentions out there. I can name 3 or 4 among my relatives alone.
Can you tell online if someone is bad or good? After getting to know them a little, of course.
Nope, not at all. Online, everyone can be whoever the hell they want to be, as the means of communication are so limited. It's usually in the eyes, in the way they respond to specific people, body language. And admittedly, when I get a hunch, I tend to fish a little by asking specific questions. It started when I was very young, and I pointed out people who I felt didn't like me, because later it turned out they didn't like children, or weren't okay, despite acting very kind, and later turned out to be a EDP. Later on, I started to recognize mean and sadistic traits real easily, but I can also pick up whether people are shallow or disinterested. Oddly enough, I can't tell when a person is lying or exaggerating a story when their intentions are kind, like with pathological liars or people who are really enthusiastic. I just sense evil and mean streaks.
Go home from university. 11 p.m. No buses anymore. Decided to get on the last train to go home. Waiting at the station for the last midnight train. Only me and 3 students were waiting at the station. They chat loudly, which is kind of annoying. Train came. Get in. Those 3 students are also in. There is no one on the train when we hop in except a guy with business attire sitting on the edge of the train. I sat in the middle. 3 loud students sat in front of me, still chatting and laughing like hyenas. The business guy moved, sit next to me. No unusual atmosphere until he says, "I'd shut up if I know I'm on the last train," to those 3 hyenas. They give no fucks. I feel quite uneasy. The train stops at a station. The business guy got out. He said, "Be careful. It's midnight time to me." The door opens quite long. Later, twin girls come in. One wears white surgical mask, one wears a red scarf which hides her mouth. Sit on the sides of 3 students, one on left, one on right. The train starts again, as if waiting for those girls to get on board. Both of them stare at each other from the window behind me. WTF. Speaking with hand gestures, what freaked me out was slit the neck gesture. The way they speak to each other is surreal, but dreadful at the same time. Those 3 hyenas also freaked out. Arrived at the station, I got off because it's my destination. When I stood up, the twins stared at me. Those 3 students didn't speak anymore. Their eyes were blank and staring at the window when I get out. The twin giggles. The door closed. The train moved again. Someday, I'll take that train again.
I've gotten that feeling before. It's really weird when you encounter someone that is actually really nice, but you can tell that their behavior is pretty alien to the typical human. I often wonder if people get the same feeling from me. I've had more than one jokingly say that I am not human, if only they knew how right they were.
I get the feeling that people who act too nice and talk with a certain tone are acting fake. Not exactly serial killer fake, but sociopath sucker fake.
That is exactly why I don't trust anybody with sugary sweet attitudes who never cuss or frown. Anyway, I could go on all day about this. I see potential serial killers and Christians all the time. They stand out like a sore thumb. This literally just happened yesterday. Be at the dollar store. Nice thin guy, early 20s, glasses, at register. Very friendly, talking to every customer. I ring up my dollar items. He looks directly into my eyes, so intense it's like he's getting ready to climb on top of me. Decline a charity and conversationally say how I don't trust a charity until I read up on it. Begins to talk to me about his personality type, how he's a super empathetic guy and how it's easy to be taken advantage of, etc. I politely go through the motions of the conversation as I take my bags and stroll to the door. He's still talking. He's walking towards the exit with me. I'm thinking, my standing in the middle of this open door facing my side towards you means I'm done talking, kid. Make my closing statement and leave. He's almost on the verge of something else to say. Very wiry and expectant kid. Based on this scant information, I am certain that he has rubbed himself on everything in the store. Also went out with a girl who threw up so many red flags I tripped on them. Is a widower. Claims she's clairvoyant. Proves to be a good pool hustler and admits she's sold drugs. Wants me. One cool thing about her is she knew and liked the stories of Mothman and the Jersey Devil. Shit, she's actually somewhat compatible. I bet she surfs X. Anyway, laying in bed, hands me picture of her dead husband. Oh, huh, hey dude, get to making out. Can't spend the night. Can't wait to tell her mother about me. Nope. Blocked her immediately after that.
The guy who lives next door to me gives me a bad feeling. His family have been living there for 4 months or so now. I've met most of the family besides the guy. They're not the brightest of people, so I tend to avoid them. You can hear him constantly yelling in the house during the day, from like 6 a.m. to 11 p.m, acting like a big man. But it's around 2 a.m. onwards he goes into creeper mode. My room's too warm at night, so most nights I sit out at the top of the stairs and open the hallway or landing, whatever the hell you want to call it, window. So I pull the curtain to the side and open the window. I wasn't too sure, but I thought I saw him standing in the window, staring into mine. I ignored it, but every now and then I'll hear him slapping something and muttering to himself.
Don't have much time, maybe a bit out of thread, but here it is. 3 years ago, living in the woods, 2 a.m. on my way home from my buddy's place after helping him repair his house. Ride a bike. Empty, long forest road, speed about 90 or 100 kilometers. Going to the nearest pump station because the fuel is almost empty. At the fork. See an old woman with maybe her young daughter with their broken car on the roadside. Asks what happened. The front wheel slipped into a deep hole in the roadside. They waited for 2 hours waiting for people to pass and ask for help. Ask if I can help. Get off my bike, check the car front wheel first. If I can't help, I'll call my mechanic friend. Slipped, but not too deep. The engine is still warm. Suddenly the engine starts, those two fuckers already on car. The car engine roars like hell, fucking shitty. Hop on bike and flee. They tailed me. My fuel is almost empty because I'm a dumbass for taking the wrong direction and circling the forest instead of driving to the pump station. Decided to stop and hide. Park my bike, I jump into the forest and climb a tree. They crash on my bike. They got off and searched for me. A while after that, they left. Call a friend whose husband is a mechanic to pick me up with her car. About 30 minutes later, she arrived with her husband, put my bike on the back and drive to her house. On the way to her house, we saw the same car which destroyed my bike parked on the roadside. They were waiting for the next victim. My face went in the back seat when they saw my bike. A day after that, there was news about a middle-aged man who was murdered and stored on his car baggage with his testicle removed. His car has a lot of dent on its side and was parked near the place where my bike was pulverized by those gypsies.
My ex turned out to be evil, made sure he was my ride to and from work, convinced several people he was an army vet that got a dishonourable discharge for beating a civilian within an inch of his life. convinced me to be a stripper for a bit for extra money. Later threw a fit about me being a stripper, convinced people that his foster dad had a heart attack and died for sympathy. A month later, his foster mum ended herself, and a day after that, his foster brother offed himself. My family called bullshit, and I ended up in a ward for a week. This hospital had a policy that no one could talk to a patient unless they had the patient number. A day before I left, he got through by threatening violence. After I was out, he showed me the obituaries of his foster family. 3 days later, I talked to his foster brother on the phone. Everyone is fine. Fucker lied. After I confront him, he comes clean about everything. He faked it all because he was cheating and yet wanted to keep me. After a bunch of bullshit, he ended up knocking up a girl from our high school. TLDR. X fakes his family's deaths. Pick related. I don't care if you dox him, he deserves it.
I work at a retail store as part of a delivery team delivering appliances. I met some of the strangest people. People who buy chest freezers usually are the weirdest of them all. Walk into the guy's house. How are you today, sir? Care to show me where we're going with this freezer? I don't know, maybe. Let's put it downstairs. Yeah, that sounds good. Proceed to look down at this mildew-infested basement with clown dolls everywhere and spider webs. It's summer too, and usually people have tiger crickets in their basements. Fuck those things, Google it. Yeah, right against this wall would be nice. Okay, sir, we'll get it ready for you. Get tape and packaging off the freezer. Carry it down there. Plug it in, push it against the wall. Does this freezer have a warranty in case like excess liquids seep into the electrical stuff? Sir, I don't believe freezers come with a warranty. Mostly other appliances do, but not these that I'm aware of. You could call the store and talk to someone in. No, it's fine. I was just wondering. He starts looking inside the freezer. Man, there sure is an awful lot of room in here, isn't there? Yep, just need you to sign for us. Haha, alrighty boys, no worries. WTF? Why would we be worried? Leaves a dark brownish stain on the delivery ticket. We roll out of there and ask my partner if the guy seemed off. Anon, everyone who buys freezers is fucking off. Lame story, I know.
17 years old. With friends at Quick Trip, old dude comes up to us and starts giving us his life story. Dude looked like a tweaker, said he just got out of hospital after months of treatment from bad accident. Offers my friends and I $100 to move shit for him at his house he hasn't been to in months. Needing money, we accept. Go there at about 6 p.m. Trailer park, really messy. Made sure to bring a knife for protection. He meets us outside, gives us $3 of $100 straight up, and tells us, I need 3 things moved, then you guys can leave. Move an old fax machine, desk, and a really heavy trash bag. The guy is blind in one eye, but staring into it makes us feel scared. Shakes our hand to leave as we thanked him, and he whispered, Be safe. I don't want anything bad happening to y'all. He gives us a creepy-ass smile, and we get the hell out of there. I haven't seen him since. I really don't want to see him again. I think he kills animals for fun, and that the really heavy trash bag we moved may have been a few bodies. But I did spend the money on gas, food, and smokes.
The only time I really had an off feeling was when I was in kindergarten. Have a friend when I was about 6 who lives across the street. Behind my house is woods. It's on the edge of the neighborhood. The kids of the neighborhood and myself would always go back into the woods and explore, build forts, etc. Kid stuff, ya know. I was always a big outdoorsy kind of kid, so I always had a pocket knife. Kid from across the street noticed I had it when I was sharpening sticks to make a spear, because why not? Says to bring my camo net tomorrow, he has something to show me. I had like a camo hunting net to hide under end shit, still have it, pretty cool. Anyways, meet this kid at my house the next morning and he has a backpack. I ask what's in it and he seemed very off. I could tell he seemed off even with my 6-year-old self's level or perception. Wants to go into the woods really bad. I ask what's in the back and he won't show me. Walk to the woods and before the entry, I stop him and demand what's in the bag. He opens the bag and shows me. I shit you not. 1 loaded handgun, 3 throwing stars, a couple of large kitchen knives, plastic bags, a lighter, fuel, and some throwing knives. Begs me not to tell anyone. Tell him I don't like that and I should tell my dad. Get my dad and he takes the stuff, brings the kid back to his house. We had a bad relationship from then on out, got in a lot of fights later on in life, and he was my first real friend too. Keep in mind this is the same kid who would always poke dead birds and light fireworks in them, and do a bunch of just weird malicious shit. I honestly think I would have gotten murdered had I gone into the woods that day. I haven't talked to Andrew since he moved in like the 5th grade.
That's some screwed up shit. Really nice perception, you rolled a 15 or higher. But seriously, that's messed up. He more than defiantly wanted to kill you or something. Was he the same age? How does someone get all of those? What did the interaction go like? Did he seem scared as though you knew he was meant harm to you or that you saw his weapons and could tell? I think he wanted you to bring your camo net because he wanted to introduce to you his morbid curiosity, his sadism. He probably thought you'd like it. I mean the gun to take down an animal, and use the items to completely mutilate its corpse. The knife, the throwing stars and knives are something recreational. Maybe pin the carcass up against something while you guys throw it at it. Then the fire to give them a finale, or maybe to light still alive animals. Either way, man, if you went in there that day, it would have been bad. Death or serial killer sidekick training, or an awkward ya no bye.
At the store, self-checkout. The guy next to me checking his stuff out is dressed kinda odd. Shorts, slippers, dress shirt, but whatever. Lots of tweakers, trash, and weirdos in my area. He asks if I have any change to spare. Sure. Hand him a few odd coins. He says, I hope I can sell my house soon. I live too far away to take care of it. What? I just smile and nod, the atmosphere getting more tense by the minute. He repeats his bit about selling his house that he lives too far away from. We both pay at roughly the same time. It almost felt like he was stalling. We exit the store together. I'm walking behind him. He pulls out a pair of black gloves from his pocket and puts them on and strolls out into the night. I just remember thinking, that guy is probably capable of murder. He was just too weird and had an almost aggressive tone of voice, at least capable of unprovoked violence. Or maybe I need to get out more.
Just posted this in another thread, but it totally fits this one too. Mum is living with her boyfriend in Florida, works as a bartender, gets to know the patrons pretty well. One guy always shows up at weird times, but tips are really good. He's either really outgoing or doesn't talk to anyone. Guy comes in early one day and orders a few drinks, brags about being a photographer, asks my mum if she wants her photos taken on the beach. She tells him no, and he eventually leaves. Patron comes in a few months later and talks to everyone in the bar. Hey, remember the rich guy that came in here? He's wanted for killing several girls and on the run from the cops.
Incidents like this always get me. You can never be too careful. I'm slow to trust people in the first place, but it doesn't take much to deceive even a cautious person.
Being killed by a serial killer is just sad. To think your entire existence is branched off from that single proposition. Photos at the beach. Your mom said no, and boom, you were almost guaranteed to exist. Except so for September 3rd, 1992. That's when I tried to, but I couldn't. I loved her so much. Goodbye, Michael.
Kinda the opposite of creepy. But, late father once tells me a story about this guy he met. Dad one day at some sort of office. Possibly a doctor's office, I don't remember. Old strange man with kind, somewhat noteworthy eyes comes up to my dad, places a hand on his back and just very, very earnestly asks how his day was with a somehow knowing look. Dad confused but responds, Good, good. Man leaves. Dad leaves doctor's office. Father, not a very religious man, but somehow was convinced man was an angel with how he phrased his words. I don't know either.
I've had people tell me that all my life. Not trying to be edgy, but when I was younger, I had crippling social anxiety, and so I was quiet and kept to myself 90% of the time. That gives off bad vibes. Most people love me. Most people tell me I'm a good person. But every now and then someone sees something else in me. My most recent ex said she saw the devil in me when we dropped acid together. This chick I lived with fairly recently said to me, and I quote, I see more darkness in you than I've ever seen in anyone else. I'm surprised more people haven't pegged me for being a little unhinged. I'd never hurt an innocent person just for shits and giggles. Or at least I really hope I wouldn't. but there is a sick sadist in me just itching to get out. I was talking to my ex, the one that said she saw the devil in me at one point, and I said that sometimes I feel really hollow on the inside, like I'm missing a big part of myself. I don't remember exactly how she said this all, but I got the keywords right. This was her response. You're not hollow. You're not empty. You're filled to the brim with rot and decay and filth. Your soul is dying, and you're letting it wither and rot inside you. You are letting yourself die with it. You have nothing to offer this world but misery and pain. If you don't save yourself, if you continue down this path, you will become the monster you've always known was in you. I was speechless. This was out of goddamn nowhere. I was sitting in the ER because I started coughing up blood and I didn't have anyone else to talk to, so I messaged her. Things between us are always more or less amiable. This caught me off guard. Would have hurt my feelings if I had any.
I can relate. Most people think I'm nice, a good person, and part of me is, but most of the time I'm completely fake with other people. I wish I knew how to repair myself.
Why do you think that you need repairing?
Speaking from the depression corner myself, just keep in mind that the depression affects you in more ways than you are probably aware. It's hard to keep track of what is the darkness and what is yourself. Depression has gradually made me careless, destructive, unempathic, nihilistic, and many other distinctly negative things. I'm not the same person now as I was before I started plummeting. I guess what I'm saying is work through the depression and it might just help you deal with all the other stuff. I know it feels impossible, and honestly it feels impossible for me right now as we speak as well, but you just got to work through it if you want your life back and the ability to feel moderately normal.
Stop thinking about your problems and start thinking of solutions that make sense to you based on your current situation taken from a simple perspective. Don't bring in all of the details until you can build a foundation. Who are you? Go live life to find out. It's not in some text, some non-living symbols. It's in your emotions and your rationality and context of your actions. Who cares what definition someone came up with about an abstract disorder of the mind? All that matters is finding an individual solution brought about by individual insight.
Be me, sophomore in high school, VP of Video Club. Prez and I are doing the first club meeting for new freshmen. One kid raises his hand and asks, "Do you guys ever do any pyrotechnics or special effects like that?" I answer, "Nah, we are a small school with no budget, bud. We can't really afford stuff like that. Besides, it's kind of dangerous." Kid kinda lowers his head and says, "I can do it for you. I am really good with that kind of stuff." Prez just nods his head and whispers to me, "Get him out of here. He is going to kill us." But really, that kid was all kinds of messed up. He apparently brought a razor to homecoming and ran into the woods behind the school. Some of you might know the school because it got famous on Imgur for having villains spelt wrong on the floor of our gym.
Work since I could for Uncle's small business. Always promised he'd teach more so I could take over. Fast forward, his old buddy shows up with his kid. Asks for his son to work. Uncle's buddy and kid feel off to me. Not sinister, but a feeling of when you know someone is lying. Kid is underage, pretends to be mature by drinking. Dyes and fills in his beard. Pretends to be everyone's friends. Unnaturally cheerful and encouraging. Late, leaves early, does no work, but Uncle loves this kid. He always cries about how bad he has it. Yet his family buys him a new car. Family always says they struggle, but remodel the house. His siblings are similar. Family is similar. He's always trying to get his family or friends to work for Uncle too. All the old employees leave due to their dislike for him. He now has his people working. Begin to notice his trick. Builds a person up with compliments and gifts. Seizes a personality trait or character flaw and adapts to be his own. Uses this to get in good with a person and lulls them into a false sense of safety. Then gets closer by adopting their vices. He's suddenly getting promotions and raises for doing absolute shit. His family is always going on vacation. Tell this to Bud. She claims he's an energy vampire. Gives me a charm. turned it into a keychain. Within 2 days of working with it attached to my belt loop, he has started to lash out, attack other employees verbally and mentally, comes in later and later, leaves earlier, lacks energy, lashed out at Uncle. He began to develop a rash and pustules. Latest action is this desperate pleading of him claiming he's my uncle's nephew. Has started to try and mimic my way of dress and talk. Has begun to try and drag down me every chance he can get.
Ex-roommate. Left his mom's house midway through his freshman year of college. Found out later he was thrown out for hurting her dog. Awake all night and bragged about sleeping all day. Chronic liar. Somehow prescribed pain pills, but had no pain or injuries. Bedroom downright nasty. Blasted porn loudly on his TV with no care. Loved to sneak up behind people and scare them. Would go days without talking to you, then act like everything was fine. Asked my other roommate if he could have his pet cat if he died. Ex-roommate's girlfriend was talking to my friend and I on the front porch one time. The ex-roommate stormed out, saying, "The movie is starting." When she continued talking, he interrupted her and screamed, "The movie is starting. Did you hear me? Hello?" She walked back to the room, but left after 30 minutes. Pretty sure the guy is gonna hurt someone someday.
I knew a dude in high school who always made me nervous. He wasn't the worst guy in school, but he hung out with a bad crowd. I never really had any problems with him either, but every time I saw him, the hair on the back of my neck stood up and I would get really nervous. Like I'd be acutely aware of any noise or movement he made, even if he was sitting behind me in a classroom. Also, he was tough as nails. For example, one time he broke 2 ribs falling off his dirt bike and didn't do anything about it till a teacher at school found out a few days later and took him to hospital. Or another time on a school excursion, he stacked a mountain bike doing a backflip. No shit. And after 3 more days of riding, swimming, canoeing, and hiking when we got back to civilization, it turned out that he twisted his ankle badly. I'm not paranoid or easy to scare, but this guy, he was like an animal wearing human skin.
There was this fellow artist, Schizo, that lived in a neighbouring town. He had always visited the same coffee shop as me, and even dated a neighbour of mine. He never has any artwork on him, nor do I see him draw. I move on with my life, and 5 years later, I start seeing him walk around waving his hands in conversation. One time I went to get pizza slices at lunch, and he was sitting on a bench on the opposite side of the parking lot than the restaurant. I was not in the mood to talk that day, so looked the other way as I walked into the restaurant. I sit down and start watching him talk to the imaginary characters around him, then out of nowhere he stops and points his finger at me and a passenger side window of one of the cars between us, about 30 yards away, and smashes it out of nowhere. I finished my pizza and left. I saw him years later when he was walking around by himself and had gained a lot of weight. I tried to talk to him and he couldn't remember me.
I work at a grocery store. A man approached me for some help, looking for some bacon that was on sale, and we started talking. We stood there talking for a good 45 minutes. He told me all sorts of insane things. I'll Greentext the better ones that I can remember. He has an IQ of over 200. His mother had mystical healing powers. She passed these powers on to him. She was murdered by the Choctaw, the Native American, mafia. She also lost millions of dollars of his inheritance that the mafia stole. He invented the car seat and the Geico lizard. When his girlfriend broke up with him, it caused a tornado. A very destructive one, a year earlier. I haven't seen the guy since. I believe he was the first overtly insane person I have ever met.
A friend of mine has a kid that scares the shit out of me. He's 11 or 12, choked their cat, hit their dog with a bat to hear the noises. Beats up on their other, younger kid. This kid gives me the shudders. He has this blank stare like fish eyes. When he gets caught doing something wrong, usually stealing or hurting something smaller than himself, he cries and bawls about moving to his dad's house. The mom instantly comforts him and then he doesn't get punished. You can see his eyes gleam when this happens, that he very much enjoys getting away with things. Even if he wasn't already a psychopath, it's like she's just teaching him there are no consequences in life for hurting others. He has absolutely no empathy, and it scares me.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.